Today, we're diving into a question that is absolutely critical for Nepal's future. Who is going to feed the nation? And at the heart of this analysis is a strategic plan to revive what should be its most important sector, agriculture. So let's start with that central question, because it's stark and it's direct. Who will feed Nepal tomorrow? This isn't some far-off hypothetical problem. It is a strategic challenge that's being driven by a huge demographic and economic crisis that is happening right now. And to really understand the scale of this, you just need to look at one number, 65,000. That's how many young people are leaving the country every single month. This is so much more than a brain drain. It's a massive exodus of labor, of ambition. Really, it's the future of the nation's most vital sector walking out the door.
Okay, so to figure out a solution, we first have to get a clear diagnosis of the problem. And this analysis frames it as a structural crisis, one that's rooted in a deep, fundamental paradox within Nepal's economy. Here's the core of it. You've got agriculture employing nearly 2/3 of the entire workforce, but it only contributes a quarter of the country's GDP. Now think about what that means. This huge imbalance points to systemic inefficiency and incredibly low productivity, which of course translates directly into low pay and a serious lack of opportunity. And this imbalance creates something the analysis calls the demographic dividend paradox. See, on paper, Nepal has this incredible economic asset. Over 40% of its population is young, in their prime working years. That should be fuel for massive economic growth. But in reality, this youth boom has turned into a youth exodus, hollowing out the one sector that needs their energy and their new ideas the most. And this isn't just an abstract economic issue. This exodus has real, tangible, and pretty severe consequences on the ground. So let's look at the direct impact this youth drain is having on the nation's ability to actually produce food. What you see is a classic vicious cycle. The farm workers who are left behind are getting older, which means they're often less able to adopt new tech or even perform the heavy labor required. This, in turn, creates critical labor shortages, especially during planting and harvesting seasons. As a result, a shocking amount of land, up to 20% of all arable land, is just being abandoned. And the burden of all this? It falls disproportionately on women, who now make up over 70% of the ag workforce, but face their own set of systemic barriers. Now, this whole cycle is supercharged by what's called the remittance trap. The money sent home by migrant workers is a huge part of the economy. We're talking nearly 30% of GDP, but it's a double-edged sword. It masks the underlying weakness of the domestic economy, creating an illusion of stability, while also making it less appealing for families to take on difficult, low-paying farm work. It just feeds the cycle of migration. So that's the diagnosis. The big question is, how do you break a cycle like this? Well, the report moves from diagnosis to action, proposing a really comprehensive framework for revival. The strategy is built on 4 pillars that all work together. It's a logical progression. First, you have to change the perception of farming. Then you build the right skills through education. Next, you remove the biggest barriers by improving access to land and finance. And finally, you drive productivity and profit with technology. Let's look at that first pillar, creating a new image. This isn't just about clever marketing. It's about showcasing a new reality. Take Shiva Kumar Atamaga. He was a migrant worker who came back and used a loan to build a modern organic farm. We're talking 47 greenhouses. His success completely redefines what a farmer can be, a skilled, tech-savvy entrepreneur who creates jobs. And this kind of transformation doesn't always need huge investments. Look at Chura Bahadur BK. He learned how to build a simple storage unit for about $120. Just that one innovation allowed him to hold on to his ginger crop and sell it in the off-season when prices are high. His price per kilo jumped more than 7 times. That's a story about smart business, not just subsistence. But look, individual success stories, as inspiring as they are, aren't enough to fix a systemic problem. You need a mechanism for change on a national scale. And the analysis points to a powerful, if complicated, engine for this transformation. And that engine is the agricultural cooperative. But here's the challenge. On the one hand, co-ops are the third pillar of the economy, a massive network that reaches everywhere. On the other hand, the sector is riddled with poor governance, political interference, and scandals that have eroded public trust. The key is to fix the crisis so you can unlock the potential. The good news is, we already have models that show it can work. You have co-ops like Galda that integrate the whole value chain and export ginger to Europe. You have others like Aravati that use technology to multiply their members' incomes. And a critical piece here is partnership, working with external experts who can be catalysts for this kind of change. These are the models that need to be replicated.
This cooperative model is especially crucial when it comes to money. Young entrepreneurs are stuck in this missing middle when they look for a loan. Commercial banks want real estate as collateral, which most young people just don't have. Other government loans can be incredibly complicated to apply for. So it's the well-run cooperatives, which often require just a group guarantee or no collateral at all, that become the single most accessible way to get capital to the next generation of farmers.
All right, so the analysis pulls all of these different threads together into a single unified roadmap, a clear set of actions that need to be taken. For the government, the roadmap is essentially a two-front strategy. First, you've got to change the environment, launch media campaigns to celebrate farming success stories, reform education to focus on business and tech, and invest in basic rural infrastructure like roads and internet. And second, you change the economics, speed up land bank policies, de-risk loans for young farmers, and push cooperatives to become real, full-service agribusiness hubs.
And that brings us right back to where we started. The answer to who will feed Nepal tomorrow is actually very clear. It will be the nation's youth. But that answer comes with a huge if. It will only happen if they are given the right tools, real opportunities, and the respect that this profession deserves. The strategy is there. The final critical question is about the will to actually see it through.